So, I got music going on in the background. You might hear that, but let's be honest. We have to have some fun sometimes in this life, and we have to be curious what people depend on to have fun, to be happy, to have these things that most people say they desire. Most people say they want to have fun. Most people say they want to be healthy. Most people say they want to be happy. But how do they actually manifest that? Most people say they want order in the world, but there's requirements for all these things. And many people choose the illusion. Many people choose what they think are going to provide them those things, but they really aren't those things. They usually are forms of dependence. What I mean by this is people look up to government for order, even though it hasn't much to do with their own life and their own responsibility and their own actions. It's always relying on others and pointing the finger. Same thing in health. The doctor will fix my problem. Same thing with religion. Oh, I will just read this book. I will just do this thing. I will attach myself to this ideology. Same thing with alcohol usage and food. I will just consume this thing. It will help me. And so you see this across the board where people, they're not alone, but they're dependent on certain things to get by. And you can see these are coping mechanisms. These are ways people get by in a world of crazy madness and so much going on. But there has to be a point in time where we realize these things can take over our lives. These things can make us keep asking for more and more, and we may not learn how to live without it. And so often when I meet people and when I find different communities out there, I'm looking for people who can live without certain substances, who can live without alcohol. Can people have fun without alcohol usage? Is it possible to find people in this world who are drug-free, who are alcohol-free, who grow their own food, who care about others, who are conscious of what they're eating? Because if you feel like you aren't meeting people like that, you might feel quite alone in this world. And, well, I can say I'm one of those individuals, and some of you might have commented on my last video saying, hey, Corey, I'd be friends with you, and, you gave some good relationship advice. I appreciate that, though I'm just another individual as yourself, and I respect your advice as well. But it was funny because my past videos, I talked about spirituality versus religion, and in spirituality, I talked about how it's more freeing, because you're not attaching yourself to one ideology. You're not depending on one ideology to say, this is my belief system, or this is where I must get all my knowledge. You're being open to the fact that you can actually learn from everything in every different religion and ideology to develop a formed, well-rounded, holistic intelligence of your own worldview. And that is what gets you most creative. That is what allows you to see outside the box and see different perspectives and different cultures and different nations, and not to say America's the best, we've done it all. These other countries, these third world countries, they don't understand, when a lot of people judge other people or other countries and they've never even been there or never put themselves in other people's shoes. So oftentimes on my channel, even if I'm not offering advice per se, I'm offering the ability to critically think, to think outside the box and just ask questions. Am I really doing anything more on my channel? So when people, I say, can be alone simply for asking questions, it's kind of a sad reality. It's people who are aware, people who are human, who care about what's going on rather than just being a robot following orders. And that's all I'm looking for in this world, and that's all I want to maintain. So the very ability to think, not what to think or what exactly you're thinking, but the very ability itself to think, the very ability to be human itself, regardless of what you do with that humanity, regardless of what you do with that thinking. I talk about nature is the answer and how you can't have love. Everybody talks about how love is the answer and love is the most important thing, or you can't have natural law, or you can't have rights or equality or order or any of those things without the nature that allows it, the nature that gives it its very ability. And you see in Elon Musk's recent interviews with AI, he's talking about how AI can be more dangerous than anything, the pen being more dangerous than the war machines, because it's the simple things that really affect people's minds that really changes the world. And people who see an illusion and accept that illusion as reality, that is the most dangerous thing. People who give dependence and allow machines to take over their natural functions, and they give it the excuse that it can absolutely do so, they're completely disregarding nature. And therefore, they go at war with it, which is basically the first premises of my entire book. Sapientia Naturae, which is the wisdom of nature. The very first premises of that book is saying a society that disregards nature is at war with nature. And I say that it's ignorance that is the root cause to all evil, and knowledge, which is essentially the root good. And so ignoring what? What are you ignoring? If this world is for us all to see, it's not really using our seeing ability. It's not even being. It's the illusion, which isn't really anything. It doesn't exist. That's the idea of illusion. It's something that you think exists, but it isn't. It actually isn't even a thing. People think government's a thing and that it's actually people or buildings. But if I put certain questions on the screen, is that really the case? People have to look past the surface and look always deeper at everything. But the more deep you go, the more you might find yourself alone in this world. And it sounds like a sad reality to say, man, can I find a society without drugs, without, needing stimulants like coffee and all these these drugs that, the doctors are handing out like candy. Oh, you got this problem? Oh, I'll give you a pill for that. Oh, you got this problem? I'll give you a pill for that. And then you're just tracking down symptoms and symptoms and symptoms, but never getting to the root cause, which is actually one's individual nature that was there beyond all the individual diseases and symptoms and all the problems. But if you never looked for that underlying foundational blueprint or underlying purpose in the universe, you would never, ever seek out the root cause to disease. The idea that somebody can live with an optimal health. The idea that people can live in vibrant, rejuvenating, real health, right? And that is something to aspire to, especially just looking at a garden or looking at the environment, seeing it thrive in certain conditions, seeing how you ferment a certain food and how it thrives in certain conditions. Recently, I just bought a bunch of plants because I'm in Florida now, and I think it's awesome, but you adapt to the environment, you see all the plants, and it's beautiful when you can set up the right conditions. Maybe you need a greenhouse for certain plants because, oh no, there might be a winter frost. You know what to do with your knowledge to assist the natural functions, to assist nature. And, as Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau, transcendentalists, have often said, you're never really alone in this world. You are maybe lonely at times, you may not have other people, but you're never alone because you always have nature. You always have this world at your fingertips. And really, when I was in Pennsylvania and other places where I thought, man, there's not many people to socialize with because I was in the middle of nowhere and that wasn't really helpful for my cause in sharing this message of liberty and truth, or whatever you want to call it, consciousness, morality. Just because there weren't people there doesn't mean I couldn't find any, because I actually found quite a bit through networking and researching and just reaching out to people and not being afraid to speak your mind. And oftentimes you even see throughout the course of my channel, I interviewed different people, I never expected, got involved in communities I never would have expected. It wasn't Mark Passio who prompted me to create content. I was creating content before that. I just started following my passion, following my purpose, and it led me down every road I needed to go down. Now, moving is a whole different scenario, which requires a lot of just configuration as to am I really doing this? But yeah, I wanted to move closer to society because I don't want to be alone, number one, or lonely. I don't think anybody does. But in the sense, I want to help the world not ever be lonely. And they definitely will when they start waking up to these truths. And they need people on their side. They need people who've planted the seed, who are ready to take action. And if anybody talks to me, they know I'm open-minded. They should know that I can talk about anything and not be offended. They can know that I'm ready for preparation. I'm ready for what's to come. And this is the goal. And people like this are coming together through Freedom Cells and different events. This is a beautiful thing. Now, I'm not to say that I'm entirely ready or other people are entirely ready, but it's about first planting that seed within your mind or having that intent within yourself, because then you can do so much more with it and already be more prepared than so many other people. And so you might be alone in your own regards, but you might have a small social community that is really tight and really close compared to this vast majority of the world, which might be phony or fake fake or have all these broken or disconfigured relationships. So it's better maybe to have a smaller, nicer community than some big, overwhelming, uncontrolled, trying to just chase the fame or fashion or whatever. This is the difference between being a small YouTuber and a big YouTuber. I don't care about the size of my channel. I want it to grow slowly. I want some of these ideas like voluntarism and natural law to grow slowly, because it's not always so good to have them just rise up and boom into the worldview when there still is a foundation to be laid in content creators and content curation about these ideas. Again, there wasn't really anybody who put out content about the history of natural law or the problems addressing them and the different perspectives regarding that, or even my own philosophy that I developed out of that, naturosophy. And so all of this is just building the foundations for the future and for the future generations, which again, we're only growing in time. So you may feel alone now, feel like you're questioning the world now, and there's not many other people who are doing so, but look at the people who are on these channels, who are clicking the videos. Look at the channels that are growing. They're only growing. They're not reducing. The amount of people who are waking up to the system is only growing. Even if a lot of those people give up and say nobody's going to listen, there's a lot of people who also feel the same way. It doesn't help if several people feel like, oh, there's nobody's going to listen, when they don't realize they're right next to each other, or that they can talk to each other and actually do more with that collaboration. But that is the idea, that you cannot feel alone, and you really should not feel alone. You should not feel lonely, because we can collaborate. I mean, this is why I'm setting up the Liberator 2 news, which is not just news. You can share poetry, art, whatever you want, articles, and I will turn them into videos. I have a green screen I'm going to be setting up here. I'll be using this microphone and fancy stuff. I have the radio project. It's going to have a bunch of visualizers. If you want to get high and listen to music, you can do that. Probably going to trip just watching it. but anyways, I'm just saying that you might feel alone in today's world looking at the vast majority of people, but it doesn't matter what the majority says. It never really mattered in the case of truth anyways. What matters is that you stand by that truth and you don't give up on it. That's what the truth wants. That's what it means to have the truth. If we had the majority vote in this world, a voice of ideas, of saying, man, everybody should follow natural law, and everybody's on that page, or everybody's understanding voluntarism or statism and all these ideas, there's got to be something else then that we're not understanding. And that requires us saying, hey, there's new content creators, there's new people on the rise, there's always going to be a new, greater idea to achieve in society, and that is the truth of that day and age. We right now are living in the truth of what happened back then. This is the present truth of what happened back then. We ended chattel slavery, so now people don't have chattel slavery in America, or at least as much as it did happen back then. So this is the present truth of what they gave to us. But they also were looking and saying, wait, there's a higher truth, there's a reason why we should not be enslaved, there's a reason why these people should be free. And so they were standing by a higher truth to say, this is the destiny of humankind, this is where we have to move. And so ever going further down the line of truth is refining our actions, and you have to do this on an individual level, meaning, are you addicted to religions? Are you addicted to drugs? Are you having to do some shadow work within yourself? Because this is the most important thing. You want to blame others, you want to point at others, you want to say you're alone. Fix yourself, focus on yourself. Let this be your time to do so. Make it the best that you can, and people will come your way. Rather than chasing, you can attract in this sense. And it's funny because the only people I find with this criteria of, being truly free and creative and imaginative and creating their own content and not just following others are kids, people who are growing up in this world. But the problem is they quickly become corrupted by the adults, and you can call this adulteration if you want, right? I sometimes call it denaturing. But that's what happens. They lose their fun and creativity as they go through the school system. They have to do paperwork, they have to stand in line, they have to do this and have to do that. And now their brain becomes stale. Now they have to get a job. Now they become like a robot like everyone else, and you have to pay taxes, and you have to fill out this form, you have to sign your name a certain way. They become part of the confines of society when originally nature nature born them free and chaotic and wanting to have fun and find out new ways of thinking. They lose that sense as they grow older, and so they go from being alone in this beautiful soul to being among many, but actually ending up depressed and with anxiety and with a bunch of health problems. So maybe it's not so good to be with the crowd in this case, is it? Maybe it's better to be alone as long as you are with the truth, you are with nature. So I always say, nature is the answer. Thank you very much for watching. Corey, I've been Ninjalot. Take care.